Hello everybody and welcome to this new Convertigo tutorial. Today the objective will be to show you how to create your first simple application using the Convertigo Studio platform. So this video follows directly the previous tutorial where we showed you how to download the Convertigo Studio, and so now that we are on the studio we can begin to create some projects and some applications. So this video will be split in two different parts. So first I'm gonna quickly show you how the studio works, so the different components. And just after we're going to see how to create our first simple application. Let's begin quickly by making an overview of the platform. So here we have the project view. So this is the place where you will be able to see all the projects that you have created. So you will be able to modify it and different things here. On the middle we have the mobile palette. So the mobile palette is the place where you will find all the components that you want to add into your application. So if you want to add some text, so if you want to add an image, if you want to add an animation, everything that you want, you will find it here. And if you're looking for a specific item, you just have to search it directly into the search bar. So if you want to have a title, for example, so H1, just write H1, and as you can see here it is, and you just have to drag and drop it directly to your application. On the right we have the mobile view. This is the place where you will be able to see directly your application displayed. So for now we don't see nothing because we didn't create some application and some project, but as soon as we are going to create our project, the application will be displayed here. And I think that this mobile view is very important because it permits you to have a view on your final application while you're creating it directly in the Convertigo Studio. So the mobile view is really useful. Down we have a lot of important tools such as the Git repo and the Git staging, because you have to know that Convertigo is fully linked with the Git platform to handle your project and deploy your project, so this is very important. Here we also have the engine log and the console and the schema to see your different bugs and handle your different bugs, so this is very also useful. So the last part of the platform is the properties view here. So this is the place where you will be able to change the properties of your different components. So if we take again the H1, we will be able to change the H1 properties directly here. Okay, so now that we've made this quick overview of the platform, let's get real. Let's create our first simple application. And I think that a NewsReader application is a good idea. So let's create a NewsReader application. So we are going to take the RSS flux from the French website, France24, but we are going to take the English news to satisfy everybody. So the first step obviously is to create a new project here. So file new project. So we want Convertigo project. And as you can see, there is a lot of different projects that Convertigo provides. So HTML website, SQL project, REST, but the one we want today is the mobile build application, because obviously we want to create a mobile build application. So let's go. Let's name it project test 1, and we finish. And as you can see, our project is now on the project view. And if we open this project, we can see that we have two different folders. So the connector folder for the back end and the mobile application for the front end. So if we open the mobile application and we double click here on application, it will display our application here on the mobile view. So let's go. And as you can see here, Visual App Viewer. Obviously the application will be empty at the beginning, but at the end of this video our NewsReader will be displayed here. So as you can see, our application is just displayed here. Empty for now, but displayed. So let's begin by the first step. The first step is creating a connector. We need a connector to connect the studio with the server, so the website. So let's create a connector. So a new connector here, connector. So as you can see, there is a lot of different connectors, but the one we want is the HTTP connector, because we know that RSS flux are served by HTTP. So let's go, let's create it. Let's name it France24, and we finish. And here is our connector. And in this connector, in the properties, we just have to link it directly to the server. So what is the server? This is the website. So this is www.france24.com. Okay, so now this is linked with the website. But actually, the studio doesn't know what he has to take from this website. So we are going to tell him by creating in this connector, we are going to create a transaction, and we are going to create an XML HTTP transaction, because we know that RSS flux are XML HTTP based, so let's go. Name it same, so friends24. Okay, and now here is our transaction, and in this transaction, in the properties, we just have to precise what do we want from this website. So in the subpath field here, we just have to tell him what do we want. So we want the English news from the RSS flux. So en/RSS. Okay, and now that we have this, we just have to execute our transaction. And here you can see that this is our information. So the category, the title, the link, the description. But obviously this is an XML document, and of course this is not the way we want this information to display in our application, but just the fact of having this information is great for what's come next. Okay, so now the next step is to create a sequence. So what is a sequence? The sequence will allow the server to interact directly with the client, so the website. And to create this sequence, this is very simple. We just have to right-click on our project. So here, click on New and click on Sequence here. So choose the generic sequence. Let's add here my friends24. Okay, and here is our sequence. Now that we have created our sequence, the next step is to import the transaction that we've created previously directly on our sequence. So how to do this? Just have to click on the transaction, click on the control button, and drag and drop directly the transaction into the sequence like this. And as you can see now in the steps, we have our transaction directly in our sequence. Okay, so now the next step is to create an iterator. So what is an iterator? It will help us to traverse a container, mostly list, to display only the information that we want. So if we only want to take a title, an image, and a description, the iterator will help us to do this. To create an iterator, you just have to right-click on your sequence here and create a new step. And as a new step, we're going to choose the iterator here with the little blue arrow. So here, we don't need to change the name for the iterator, so directly finish. Now that we have our iterator, the next step is to create a complex element to put into this iterator to contain the XML elements that are here. So let's go. So right click on the iterator, new step, and we're going to put here a complex element. And we're going to name it news. And in this folder, we're going to put XML elements. So here, XML elements. So what do we want? So the title, the description, and the image. So let's go. Let's copy and paste 3 times because we want 3 information, and rename it. So the first will be the title, the second will be the description, and the third element will be the URL. Okay, so now that we've made all these previous steps, now the objective is to link our iterator with the transaction that we've made previously. So we're going to right click here on our call transaction, and we're going to show it in the picker. So here is the source picker, and normally we should find our RSS flux directly inside, but we don't. And this is normal because the Convertigo Studio didn't learn the data structure from the XML document. So what we have to do is to right click on the transaction, and we have to update schema from current generated XML, because as you know, we got the XML data from friends24, but Convertigo does not know the structure. But as we already received the data from the connector, we will use this data as a model to generate our data model schema. So let's go. Yes. And now if we open again the picker of our call transaction, we should find our RSS here. Great. So now what we have to do is to open the RSS here, open the channel, and drag and drop the entire items into the iterator here. Let's go. Now that the item is linked with the iterator, let's right click on the iterator and show in picker the iterator. And now we open the item, and as you can see, there is all the information that we want. So the title, the description, and the source for the URL. So just drag and drop. So I open the title here, I take the little text here and drag and drop it directly to the title. I'm going to do the same for the description, and same for the URL. So this is source, and you open the attribute and you take the URL equal. Okay, and you drag and drop. Okay. Now that we have binded our sequence, we just have to execute our sequence to display the information that we want to display into our application. So let's go, just execute here our sequence. So right click, execute, and as you can see, here is the news that we want. So our news here with our title, our description, and our URL. So this is great. So now that we have this, we can go through the front-end part. So now what we have to do is to see how to display the information that we have now directly on our application. So first step is to go to our application that we opened earlier, and as you can see, just right-clicking on the different elements, it shows you directly in the project view where the element is located. So if I right-click on my title here, it's bring me directly here to the bar title, and if I open the bar title, as you can see here, my title is here, so I can directly change my title here. So I'm going to change it with you. So let's call it Friends 24 Reader. And as you can see, the modification is doing live to the application. So now my application is named Friends 24 Reader. So how to display the Friends 24 news directly to our application? So I think that we're going to pass by a button. So if we click on the button, it will bring the information. So first step is to input a button in our application, and as you can see here, you take the button and you just have to drag and drop it directly to the application, and as you can see, the button is now on the application. So we right click on it and we're going to change some properties of this button. Let's change the shape, so we're going to put it block, and we're going to change the size, putting it large, and that's okay. Okay, and now we're going to input some text in our button. So here, and we just have to drag and drop directly into the button like this. Okay, now in our button here, we have the text. So let's change the text. So let's read news. Okay, so now we have our button, but obviously as we click on the button, nothing happens. And this is quite normal because we didn't tell to this button that he has to do something when we click on. So that's what we're gonna do now, putting to the button an event. So an event is like a on click or on tap, and we're gonna tell to him on click, do something. So we're gonna input our event directly to our button here, drag and drop. So here is our untap, and in this untap we want input a call sequence because we want to have our sequence that has the information of the Friends 24 NewsReader. So right click on new, create new AI component, and we want to put a call sequence here. Okay, and in the call sequence properties, in the request table here, just have to click on the little square again and link it directly to the generic sequence Friends 24. So now our button is linked to the RSS flux and our sequence that we created earlier. Now that we have created our call sequence into our untap, the next step is to create a for each element that will help us to say, for each item, I want you to display this information. So how to input a for each? In Convertigo, this is named a directive. Okay, and the directive, we are going to drag and drop it directly to the content. So here, okay, so now here is our for each, and in this for each we are going to change some of the properties. So let's check on the properties. So here we can see that this is great, this is the for each, so that's what we want. And here in the directive source we have to link our for each with the sequence that contains the information that we want, with the complex. So click here on the little SC mode in the three little points here, and now we have to link it with the sequence that contains the information that we want. So the news complex that we've created before with our title, description, and URL. So okay, and we link it directly. And now my for each is directly linked with the information. Once we've done that, we are nearly done. We just have to put the elements to display visually our news. So first let's input a card container, that will contain our informations, so directly in our for each. And in this card container, we're gonna add a card content to put our content, obviously. So directly in the card container. Okay. So now we just have to drag and drop directly the element that we want to display into our card content. So we want a title, we want a description, and we want an image. So we want a title, so a H1. So let's drag and drop directly into our content. We also want a description, so this is a paragraph. So same, just drag and drop into the content. And we want to display the image, but I want the image to be on top of the description of the title. So I take my image and I drag and drop it directly into the card container and not the card content. And you just have to click on and input it up there. Okay. And now you just have to input a text value into our H1 and into our paragraph to display the news that we have. So now our last steps is just to input a text value into our H1 and into our paragraph and link it directly to our iterator to display the news that we want. So the title, the description, and the image URL. So let's input the text value into our H1 and into our paragraph. And in the text properties now, we just have to go in the text value here and click on the source mode, so the green one. Click on the three little points, and we have to link it with the little blue arrow here, so the iterator. And as you can see, here is our for each, and now we just have to link our for each with the element that we want. So we are on the H1, so the title, so we link it with the title here. So now our title is linked with all the titles of the France 24 news. So we're going to do the same for the paragraph. So source, three little points, iterator for each, and we want the description. And do the same with the image. So the source mode here, three little points, iterator for each, and we want the URL. Okay, so now that we did that, if we click on the button, we should have our information. So let's go. And as you can see here, the iteration is checking all the information that he has to display. So we're gonna have all the titles, the description, and the image on our application. So let's see it. And as you can see, here is our news. So we have our image here, our title, and our description. So obviously you can change the way that you display the application, but for now I just show you the basics, so how to display the news. Okay, so now that we have our application, I want to show you a last thing. So this is how to deploy your application to show to your friends, your colleague, to make them try your application or stuff like that. So you will see that this is not very difficult. Just have to right click on your project here, click on deploy here, continue here. You choose here the test.convertigo.net/convertigo, and you don't change anything here, and you just deploy your project. And as you can see here, deployment in progress. So as soon as the deployment is going to be okay, Convertigo will give us a link, a URL link to see our application. So as you can see, Convertigo just told me that my project has been successfully deployed, and he gave me a URL. So let's click on this URL. And it brings us directly to this page where we will be able to see our application just clicking on the QR code here. So let's click on, and as you can see, our application is just displayed here on the web. But obviously we want to see how our application is displayed on a mobile device, because Convertigo develops a mobile application. So just right click, check inspect, and here choose the device, and as you can see, we have a mobile device, so an iPhone device here. So let's go, let's click on the read news button to see what it shows. And as you can see, our news are here with our picture, our text, our title, everything is there. And we can obviously change the device to see if the application works on different devices. So if we were on the iPhone X, let's take the Galaxy S5. So great, also well displayed. And if we take, for example, the iPad, this is also great. So as you can see, the application displays well on every mobile devices. So this is great. I hope that this video helped you to understand better how the studio works, and thank you for listening and see you soon.